Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to explore a developing story that has significant implications for global politics and economies. Recently, there have been reports of a potential shift in U.S. strategy towards Venezuela, with some speculating about military intervention and others discussing economic sanctions. To better understand this complex situation, let's break it down. The U.S. has been critical of the Venezuelan government, citing concerns over democracy, human rights, and economic management. In response, the U.S. has imposed sanctions and taken other measures to pressure the Venezuelan government into making changes. However, some analysts argue that these actions may not be effective in achieving their intended goals. They point out that sanctions can have unintended consequences, such as hurting ordinary citizens and strengthening the resolve of the government. Others suggest that a more nuanced approach is needed, one that takes into account the complexities of Venezuelan politics and society. One aspect of this story that's garnered significant attention is the role of oil. Venezuela has vast oil reserves, and the U.S. has been keen to see these resources developed and brought to market. Some have speculated about the potential for U.S. oil companies to become involved in Venezuela's energy sector, which could have major implications for the global energy market. As we consider these developments, it's essential to approach the topic with a critical and nuanced perspective. We need to weigh the various factors at play and consider multiple viewpoints before forming an opinion. The situation in Venezuela is complex, and there are no easy answers. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a complex and volatile situation unfolding in Iran. The country has been rocked by widespread protests, with at least 36 people killed and over 2,000 detained. The unrest was sparked by dire economic conditions, which have been exacerbated by international sanctions. As the situation continues to escalate, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has issued a stark warning to Iran's leader, stating that if the country's security forces persist in their crackdown on protesters, they will face severe consequences. Graham even went so far as to say that former President Trump would kill the Iranian leader if he were still in office. It's essential to approach this situation with nuance and balance. On one hand, the Iranian government's response to the protests has been brutal, and the international community has a responsibility to condemn such actions. On the other hand, external interference or threats of violence are unlikely to improve the situation and may even worsen it. Meanwhile, an academic who spent 84 days in an Iranian prison, Kylie Moore Gilbert, has written about the mood on the streets in Iran, describing it as one of desperation rather than hope. She notes that while the protests are significant, they have not reached the scale of those in 2022, and the diaspora community is currently preoccupied with infighting. As the situation in Iran continues to unfold, it's crucial to prioritize a peaceful resolution that respects the rights and dignity of the Iranian people. The international community must navigate this delicate situation carefully, avoiding actions that could exacerbate the violence or undermine efforts towards a democratic transition. Welcome back to Concrete Block. As we wrap up today's show, we're shifting our focus to the escalating tensions in Yemen, where a decades-long civil war continues to unfold. The situation has taken a turn for the worse, with southern Yemen teetering on the brink of a new conflict. At the heart of this crisis is the rift between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, two key players in the region. The UAE-backed Southern Transitional Council, or STC, has been making significant gains in recent weeks, seizing control of large swaths of territory from forces loyal to the internationally recognized government. However, Saudi Arabia has accused the UAE of pressuring its separatist allies to push into eastern Yemen, which Riyadh sees as a threat to its national security. The tensions came to a head when the Saudi-led coalition struck a shipment of weapons and military vehicles destined for the STC, which had arrived from the UAE. The Emirates responded by announcing its decision to withdraw its remaining forces from Yemen. Despite this move, the situation remains volatile, with clashes between rival factions intensifying in recent days. The latest development saw the STC's leader, Idris al-Zubaydi, being stripped of his membership in the Presidential Council and referred for prosecution on charges of high treason. The council accused him of exploiting the Southern cause to commit grave crimes against civilians and forming an armed gang. As the conflict deepens, concerns are growing about the humanitarian implications and the potential for further destabilization in the region. The international community is calling for calm and urging all parties to engage in dialogue to find a peaceful resolution to the crisis. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed,